is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 288. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him E, sitting here on a Thursday, beautiful Austin, Texas, getting ready for the first away match of the season. You and I going on a little bit of a road trip with some buddies here tonight. So recording early on our Thursday. How you feeling, my friend?
I'm super ramped up, man. This is a very winnable game versus a team that probably overperformed last season and has not looked great in their first two matchups. So a real opportunity for 3 points here. So I'm excited, obviously excited about our play. Can we reveal them? Are we keeping it a secret?
Our plans? Oh yeah, we got like courtside for Spurs Pistons tonight. So yeah, we're fucking jacked up here.
Yeah. So we're ready to go, man. I'm ready to get into this. Beautiful day out. Loving it.
Yeah. We'll put some pictures in the Discord for those Patreon members. Just, a little envy for any of the basketball fans we got in there.
I mean, we did get pictures with Wemby's mom last time.
That's true.
We sat right next to Wemby's mom, and I'm looking over at this woman, and she's like journaling while the game is on. And I was just like, why are you sitting courtside? Like, you're not paying attention at all. Yeah. And it turns out she's paying more attention than me because she's taking detailed notes of the fucking game.
Yeah.
Our buddy
I was like, yeah, dude, that's Wemby's mom sitting next to us.
Our buddy got
Of course I know who she is.
Yeah. Our buddy got so nervous to meet her, he wouldn't need his chicken fingers to come off as a typical American. Yeah. So he stashed him under his seat, ate him 2 hours later, cold as shit. And then she got us sick.
Oh, she did. She did. Something about these pro athletes, their families, like just
wash your hands.
Yeah, right? All right. Well, we will, of course, preview the upcoming road match Saturday evening out there taking on Charlotte FC. Second team back in action on Sunday night, so we will preview their match as well. And, of course, some Boy Factory closing it out with the nonsense here today. Before we get into all of that, just want to remind you, as we always do, you can support the show financially for free just by downloading the audio versions of our episodes wherever you get your podcast. Toggle on auto downloads. That'll support us that way going forward, and you won't have to think about it again. If you want to go the extra mile, you can rate and review the show wherever you get your pods. And if you are watching on the YouTube channel, hitting that subscribe button does help us grow the show. You can hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, you're on episode 288. You hit the thumbs up. You like that video to help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords. Look, atone for your sins. Wash yourselves clean in the waters of the North End. And look, E, if you want to take your sicko status up a notch, you can join our Patreon, North End merch, giveaways, some of them scheduled, some of them impromptu, right? You get access to best ball, although that deadline has already passed for this season. You can get into that pyramid next year. And of course, there's even more we offer there. Discord access, listener questions, all that. QR code to join is on the screen right now if you're watching on the YouTube, and link in the description of both the YouTube and the audio versions of this episode. Man, like the Discord continues to pop off. Right? We get in the middle of the week. There's a little bit of a lull there, but some lively discussion, of course, coming off the heels of Sunday's victory. And then talking about that League's Cup schedule here that got released this morning, E. So we will talk about that. Anything else for you on the Patreon or anything like that?
I'm just going to say the Discord is definitely a lot of fun, man. A lot of people passionate about not only Austin FC, but this league and everything. A lot of happenings. It's cool to be in there and just be with people, and chatting with people that we wouldn't have an opportunity to talk to really well, you would, but I should.
I'm everywhere.
Yeah.
Me and Mir too, man. We see everything. Actually, E, so before we get into a little bit of discussion on that League's Cup schedule release that we got just before we hit record here on our Thursday, just wanted to remind everybody, as we did at the end of the recap on Monday's episode, one last reminder that if you don't have anywhere to watch the game this weekend and you want to go hang out with some other Verde and Black diehards, you can go to the first away game watch party of the season. Of course, these are hosted by Los Verdes. And this first watch party of the season, E, the kickoff 6:30, so the start time is at 5. But over at Hop Squad Brewing, our friends over there at Hop, opening up the doors, of course, all ages and dog friendly over there at Hop Squad. Parking is free, both on site and in the adjacent lot. Food there from the Yucatan Tacos and More food truck on site. And we'll have merch tables set up for not only Los Verdes, but our friends over at the dispensary, Dan Lewis and Cuidate. And of course, as we mentioned, last but not least, during the match, $5 beers from our friends at Hop Squad. So head over to the Los Verdes watch party starting at 5. Kickoff of the match 6:30. Should be a great time.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
So that League's Cup schedule I mentioned, right? We've been kind of anxiously awaiting this because there was rumors that some of these matches may be held in Mexico this season, and I'm not sure if that might take place elsewhere in this tournament. But for the Austin FC portion of this schedule, the group stage, all 3 matches will be held at Q2 Stadium. And so fitting this group stage right into that window, that little tiny break in the August schedule that you pointed out on the schedule release live stream back in November, right? It was an early schedule release last fall. August 6th, Club Tijuana will come to Central Texas to take on Austin FC. 3 days later, Puebla will come to town, and then the finale of the group stage, August 13th, Club America coming to Q2 to take on the Verde and Black. And I gotta imagine, man, I feel like the Austin FC fans that I've met throughout our time as fans here of this team, if those fans are also fans of a Liga MX club or MX club, I feel like Club America is the one that is the leader in the clubhouse, so to speak. That might be a very split game. And we might have some diehard Austin fans that have the, house divided type of jerseys on, the half Club America, half Austin FC. I wonder if we'll see any of those out there. I am very excited for this slate of games in terms of the opponents. What I am quite upset about is that Club America match on August 13th is 48 hours before we host FC Dallas.
Damn.
That's bullshit, man. That sucks. And so I honestly don't know what could possibly happen to make me come off of my stance that I would like to punt the game against Club America so we can make sure to beat the shit out of our MLS rivals on the 15th at home. Again, just like the questions that were asked of Coach Estevez this morning about this, those guys are not thinking about this at all, nor should they until we get closer to these dates in August. But man, that is the only bummer that I see out of this is the fixture congestion, and our opponent that's coming up right after is the one that I want to beat more than anybody but Houston.
Yeah, totally get that. I mean, when I initially saw this lineup here, super excited, saw Club America, was like, oh, that's going to be awesome. Then get that information about Dallas. The game could potentially not matter. That's a very real thing that could happen here. So you might have that in the back pocket. But yeah, that is some poor scheduling for sure. And there's going to be a lot of yellow in the stadium for that one. That's for sure, man. So I'm looking forward to it. This is why I love this competition. I love being able to see these Liga MX teams and their fan bases and how much they love their team. So this is why I'm a big fan of Leagues Cup. But yeah, this is a tough draw, and to have Dallas 2 days later is pretty shitty.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine we'd have decent turnout too for Tijuana or Puebla, right? Because you think back to even Mazatlan brought their band and everything, right? We've seen Pumas and Rayados, some of the bigger teams, geographically, Tijuana, obviously pretty far away from us, but I imagine there's a decent amount of fans coming for all 3 of these games, with the pinnacle being that Club America game. And I'm glad you brought up the fact that game could be meaningless in terms of Austin FC advancing. Club America too, right? Because some of these Liga MX teams have struggled historically in this tournament and did even more so last year when they changed to this new format where all of the group stage games, all 3 for all of the teams involved, will take place against opponents of the opposite league. So you look at these standings from the group stage last year, dude.
Wow.
No Liga MX team won all 3 of their group stage matches, and only 2, Toluca and Pachuca, went undefeated. And so that's what I was thinking, like, we're probably not going, like, if you lose to Club America, we're probably not moving on, but not so, man. The only team that won all three was Seattle. And of course, Seattle on the heater at that point won the whole tournament at the end of the day. But you look at, right, Inter Miami, LA Galaxy, Orlando City were the teams that advanced. Portland and Columbus also had 7 points in their 3 group stage matches. So unless we have some significant variance between these two group stages in this format, 2 wins and a draw is looking like what can at least get you onto that, tiebreaker type of scenario once all the dust settles. But that kind of surprised me that only one team out of 36 in the competition won all 3 of their group stage games. Like, again, I think it speaks to why you and I understand why some fans really turn their nose up at this competition. But in terms of the competition itself, it's very entertaining.
Yeah, it's super fun, man. I do love seeing Houston as the only team that didn't get any points from MLS there. But yeah, dude, that kind of took me back there, seeing only 4 teams with 2 wins from Liga MX in that group stage.
Yeah,
we do know some of them don't, some of those clubs are not taking it as seriously as the MLS teams are. You're on the road, you got all that travel and shit like that. So I get it. I'm still a fan of this tournament. I've said it plenty of times. It's not perfect, but the competition is fun. I love seeing these the fans of the Liga MX teams.
So, Coach, like I mentioned, was asked about the Leagues Cup schedule. I think they were, conducting media availability today while the schedule was posted. Nico said, of course, they're very excited to see this schedule of opponents, but they're not thinking about it right now. Looking forward to it when Leagues Cup comes around.
Yeah.
Anything else for you on Leagues Cup?
I'm good.
All right, let's talk Charlotte FC here. I am on the preview this particular week at thenorthendpodcast.com. So match preview article will be posted on Friday. Let's talk a little bit about this team on episode 288. Last season, of course, Charlotte, we can go back through their history fairly quickly. The 28th MLS team, expansion season 2022, so just 1 year younger than Austin FC. And I would say, like, they've kind of had a higher floor, but a lower ceiling so far. Last season's result definitely being their best season so far in 2025. They were 21st in average possession, 47.9%, 13th in MLS in expected goals. But defense was where they got it done, man. Second in the league in clean sheets, 14 of their 34 MLS regular season matches. They kept clean sheets, only behind Supporter Shield winners Philadelphia Union, who had 15. But they were 21st in expected goals conceded, and that is the Christian Kalina effect, man. Like, if he is one of those keepers where you see him on the anonymous executive survey, you see him getting, team of the match days and all of that. Like, that is one of those goalkeepers that absolutely belongs up there. And you're seeing the Kalina effect, even though they haven't won yet this season. You are seeing it in 2026 as well.
Yep.
So they were last in the league in possession won in the final third. Also last in the league in tackles last season. So you can see that this is not a team that is going to put a ton of pressure on you up high defensively. And at least in 2025, the profiles of the way these two teams played were relatively similar. Compact, right, conservative defensively, and not too dissimilar offensively. They just outperformed their XG. You see it in the expected points table. Outperformed their expected points on FOTMob's model by 14 last season. By comparison, we know Austin also overperformed slightly. Austin overperformed by just 4 points.
Wow.
So again, these teams profiled through the underlying metrics very, very similarly. But Charlotte, it was really the huge second half push that they had, dude, to finish top 4 in the East. That was headlined by a 9-game win streak that spanned July 12th through September 13th in league play. Dude, that tied the MLS record since they went away from the shootout or ending the games in shootouts in the year 2000. Like, that was, again, it made their season. The bookends of the season were less than stellar.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the start for them this year has been quite rough. And that defensive unit that you've brought up has really not been that staunch. Obviously, you're getting the play from Kalina, who I believe is leading the league in saves per game through 2 games right now. And I mean, that's a big part because they've given up a ton of action to a St. Louis offense that we don't think is about average. And then an LA Galaxy team that we know has some real horses up there in the attack. I did some perusing, checking around their kind of podcast, their kind of sentiment and everything like that. And
Sure. Subterfuge, standard.
It seems like they're kind of lighting a little bit of a oh shit fire where it's like things are not looking good right now. We don't look like a cohesive unit, and the results from these first 2 games, obviously a very small sample size, but have for. So I think you're going to see a desperate Charlotte team this weekend who knows they're playing at home, who historically looking at Austin FC as a team that you can get 3 points against in your own building. So I'm expecting a team that's going to be really desperate, hungry for a win, but it has not looked good so far.
Yeah, and like it's kind of a continuation, these first 2 games of 2026 that you're mentioning. It's kind of a continuation of their disappointing into the season last year, because they did, right? The win streak buoyed that record enough. They're standing in the table. They finished top 4 just by a hair, right? But then you host a first round series against NYCFC, and like there have certainly been worse results for teams in a first round where you have home field advantage, but like crashed out in the first round, I think would apply here. Lost both of the home games, and they won game 2 on the road, but that was a scoreless draw where they had to win in penalties. Outscored 4-1 on aggregate in the 2 home matches. But like you take a look at the roster, they didn't have a ton to do in terms of replacing like huge names on this team. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of turnover. The biggest outbound move was Adelson Malanda, right? One of the best center backs in MLS last season. He was signed by Middlesbrough in the championship last summer, and as part of that contract, that deal included a loan back to Charlotte for the remainder of 2025. So Malanda did make his exit this offseason. They also lost Eric Williamson, who departed after he was out of contract and not re-signed. Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy went back to Montreal after his loan expired. And then they also, you can see that they've got 3 DPs on the roster sheet here that we have pulled up for the YouTube viewers. And they have 4 U22s on this roster sheet. So a 3-4 build, that doesn't work. That's because Nikola Petkovic is on loan to Seattle right now, which opened that final U22 slot for, I imagine, this Bay Koulibaly here, who hasn't made a huge impact in his short time. Man, it just basketball brain here for a second. Every time I see Nikola Petkovic, I want to take one letter out and talk about Peck. And like, I don't know, E, if you're familiar with what's been going on with Nikola Petkovic, former Minnesota Timberwolves. Dude, you got to Google it after. I mean,
God.
Yeah, like Eastern European gang activity. It's some crazy stuff with old Peck there.
All right.
Getting back on track with Charlotte here. Right, when you don't lose too many players, you don't have that much space to bring in new additions. But the ones that they did, I think, are going to prove to be positive additions. Luca De La Torre is the one that stands out to me the most here. He acquired from Celta de Vigo in La Liga after, of course, spending last season on loan with San Diego. So De La Torre now a full-time player for the Crown. Henry Kessler, right, veteran center back, was signed in free agency on a 1+1. So like with my own subterfuge activities, it seemed like some of the more plugged in Charlotte fans or like local pundits, Kessler was not really the team's first choice replacement for Malanda. Like, and I don't even know if you can say replacement, because there's going to be a skill difference between a guy like that and most MLS free agents. But they, 1+1 deal, you don't commit long-term. And Kessler, of course, is a very talented center back in this league. Just doesn't appear to be like what Charlotte wanted to push all their chips in on in terms of an answer there. And David Schnegg, who we briefly talked about last week, right, when previewing DC, Austrian left back. They claimed him off of waivers after Schnegg was bought out by DC in the preseason. And like one of the players, that I think the fan base in Charlotte was frustrated that the team wasn't able to move on from, Liel Abada, right? DP winger. One time Austin FC rumor guy. He was brought over to Charlotte in March 2024, and since then 12 goals, 4 assists, over 57 appearances, just 38 starts for Abada. And so I think those fans kind of hoping the team can do business in the summer to swap out Abada for somebody else in that third DP slot. Anything for you on the player movement?
I mean, I feel like this team, they have the hot start to the end of the season, right? And you're feeling good about yourselves, right? But we knew that there was some holes in this roster. And I feel like they got a little bit complacent with this offseason. Like Abada got 70 minutes the first game, already on the bench, nothing versus the Galaxy. They've been tinkering they've tinkered that starting lineup now a little bit. Luca De La Torre, solid player, but I think they're asking him to do some pretty heavy lifting for this midfield right now. And I did pop over to Mint City Soccer Show or something, one of the Charlotte FC podcasts.
Shout out.
They had some good breakdowns on De La Torre and how he routinely is being sucked out of positioning on the defensive side of the ball, which has led to the amount of chances that they've given up. I mean, double-digit shots on target both games thus far this season. Like we talked about with Abada, not getting a whole lot out of him. You have a guy like Wilfred Zaha, right? Like all the talent in the world. Dude is a spectacular player, puts it together here and there, but the consistency with him has not really been something that you're looking for out of a DP. And this team is just really struggling right now, man. And as you mentioned, with some of the losses on that back line, it's looked like they really hurt them, and they have not found, I think, a suitable answer quite yet. Long way to go here again. But I do think Christian Kalina is cleaning up a lot of the mess that's out there in front of him right now.
Yeah, dude. Kalina, again, one of the better keepers in the league last year. And I did want to, right, as we try to piece together our underlying numbers, the advanced stats that were ripped off of FB Ref in the preseason. If you look at the American Soccer Analysis interactive tables, they still have G minus XG stats there from like the last 12 years. So you look at Kalina this season so far. Of course, we're dealing with looking at anything just in 2026. It's an extremely small and volatile sample size, but through 2 weeks, Kalina second in G minus XG, right? Which is one of the better shot stopping metrics that we have. He's only behind Rafa Cabral. That's Austin's next opponent. So we will keep on that theme this time next week. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Kalina was fourth in G minus XG last season. So you can see that he is, again, one of the best shot stoppers in the league. And what that's not just indicating that Kalina is still very much, playing his game, playing to the level of expectation, but kind of like you hinted at, that the Charlotte defense is giving up chance after chance. And like, we know that LA Galaxy is improved this season, right? Even down the second half of last season before some of the additions they made coming into this year. But St. Louis as well, right? It's not like you're facing two of the top teams in the league to start. And yeah, dude, again, they keep saying underlying numbers. We've already said it 3 times, so I don't know what we, pour something out here, but they're leaky at the back. And like, I think like Tim Ream is back there, right? 38-year-old. We know Tim Ream, of course, right? Like, spent the majority of his career with Bolton, with Fulham, right? This is a guy who's had a long storied career, of course, also his exploits with the U.S. men's national team. But age comes for everybody, and it might be now for Tim Ream. Privet and Toffolo back there haven't covered themselves in glory. And you look at like the normal captain for this team too is Ashley Westwood. And that's another name. We're like former Aston Villa and Burnley midfielder, right? But he's 35. He was off the bench last game, right? In week 2. So kind of what you said, head coach Dean Smith is already kind of messing with the puzzle pieces to try to figure this out. And like what he did against Galaxy, dude, they were down 3-0 in a blink of an eye, and it could have been 4 or 5.
Yep, absolutely. Westwood was sick last week. Learned that from my
Okay,
subterfuging
nice.
there. So he was sick all week, but he did get in. But again, another guy who's fucking old, man.
Yeah,
Like he's
yeah,
old player, and like he was never a guy who relied on a lot of like athleticism or speed or anything like that. But like you get at this point in your career, man, and I guess underlying numbers again here. They're one
yeah,
of 3 teams that have given up over 20 shots on target thus far, and they're one of 2 teams that have under an XG total, according to MLS stats right now, man. So,
yeah,
like, before we jumped on here, I said to you, this team fucking sucks, man. Like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And like, that's taking it a little too far because we do have to respect the fact that they have guys like Zaha and Pep there in the middle as well, Toklamati, that we know can do some dangerous things, but like, they have not put it together thus far. I don't know how the preseason went, but like it has not been turned on here. Again, from my work subterfuging and everything like that, they were talking about a team that looked really out of shape and slow. So I don't know if their conditioning was there for these first 2 matchups, but they should not have a point. They really got fortunate in that St. Louis game to get the draw from a
yeah.
game that
Tough
they.
shot by BL there.
Yes, it was a good shot. And that's like he's got talent, and so does
Yeah,
Zaha. Like you got to respect that about them. But this has not been the start that this team has wanted here, man. And you know, again, I'm ready to talk about us if you're ready to get into that, because I do. This is a winnable game on the road. This is 3 points that's available to you.
just want to dig a little bit more into some of those attacking players. All the guys that you mentioned, I think, are the ones that we should be worried about, and guys that Coach Estevez mentioned today by name that we should be worried about. And it starts with Pep Biel in the middle there, I think, right? 29-year-old Spaniard. He was on loan from Olympiacos for his first season and a half in Charlotte, but now after his very positive 2025, triggered the purchase option just statistically there. So now a full-time member of the Crown, as they're referred to, BL has 28 goal contributions across his 37 career appearances for Charlotte FC, including that lone goal that the team has scored this season. And he pulls the strings for this squad, and like I think is a significant challenge for the likes of Danny and Ilie or anybody who would come in place of them throughout this match. And he's going to be feeding those balls to, right, Aidan Toklamati up top, one of their U22 options. He was signed at the end of the 24 summer window, started 19 games last season, 11 goals, 4 assists. Biggest name on this roster is Wilfried Zaha, right? The 33-year-old winger / forward, 68 Premier League goals for Zaha. He's on loan through this summer from Galatasaray. And then a guy that I think we have brought up at least the last time we saw Charlotte in 2024, because that's one thing we didn't mention, the all-time head-to-head. It's another one of these teams in the East that we're undefeated against. Not quite as many games as we had against DC, but 1 win, 1 draw in the all-time head-to-head for Austin against Charlotte. But Kerwin Vargas was a guy that physically we really noticed stuck out to us back in that game in 2024. Vargas still on that U22 deal. One of those guys can play on either wing, but has been lining up on that right side with Zaha in the mix. We mentioned, right, 1-1 draw against St. Louis in the opener, whooped 3-0 by the Galaxy last Saturday. And the last thing I'll say about the Charlotte team, man, is like, I said this to you after the Galaxy scored their 3rd goal last Saturday night while we were throwing some darts. Now they're coming back for their home opener. This is a spot you'd imagine there's going to be a ton of energy from players and fans alike. Like, I would expect the atmosphere here to be electric. Like, Charlotte always has energy in the stands. Even in that cavernous NFL stadium that usually has the upper deck closed, like, they are able to turn that into a significant home field advantage, at least if you're just looking at the stats. So this is not a game, as much as we think that, all things being equal, Austin is a more talented side here, or at least a side that has been more impressive through the short sample we have. The atmosphere is a factor and will be a factor.
Absolutely. And that's one of the biggest things going into this game for me as well. You have this Charlotte team obviously coming back for their first home opener for the season. You have an Austin team going on the road for the first time. Going to have a little bit of a time change as well to get on that East Coast there. But that is a factor. But still, man, that is something that you have to be able to overcome. You have to be able to weather being in a tight, tough, kind of electric atmosphere, which credit to Charlotte, they do turn out and show up for these guys, man. So, yeah, I'm ready to get into Austin if you are.
Yeah, and
No
I think
more?
no. I think what we heard from Coach today in terms of the personnel was not surprising. He said Miko Dessler is very close to joining the roster. We know that Dessler said that the plan was, as of Sunday, told our buddy Scott that he was expecting to be available off the bench for this one. He also said Robert Taylor could join the team in training next week, which again, with that grade 1 MCL, like that seems like it's on the timeline. We're not freaking out as much about Robert Taylor, not even close, compared to a guy like Owen Wolf, who Coach kind of wormed in there in the same bucket as Taylor, which that would give me much more confidence that Owen will be back for the Miami match, like BV. And he said BV like partial practice, doing rondos and like other mostly non-contact drills, which like we heard BV say like what a week ago where he's like, I need a month of full practice before I play.
Yeah.
We are now sitting here on March 5th, April 4th is the Miami match. So again, it's not a guarantee that BV is going to be there for Miami either, even though I do still think that is the most likely outcome.
Well, we will. So that's pretty much all
we'll be there no matter
that's
what.
pretty much all that matters. Look, I'm not expecting Dessler again until I fucking see it, until I see that fucking Swede, Finn, or whatever he is sitting on the bench
He's
over
Danish,
there.
Dude.
Danish.
I believe.
Get him on the bench till I see him over there. I'm not trusting it. Dancing around with Owen stuff, man, brutal.
Yeah.
I do not like the way that this is heading. The trajectory of this injury and this timeline and everything has not been great. And as you mentioned, I think that there's some legitimate concern for the BV timeline, but we'll cross that bridge once we get there. I'm not expecting much change from the 11. The thing I'm really looking for is how this Austin team comes out and plays and approaches this match. We saw a team last year, right, really get more conservative on the road, particularly versus some more high-quality opponents. This Charlotte club, I'm not throwing into that list of names, but very interested to see how Coach wants to approach this. And from the first 2 games that we've seen, albeit they have been at home, you've seen a more open offense, a bit more free-flowing. You've seen some good use of space that we haven't necessarily seen in the past with this team. We've seen, we've talked about and raved about how the new guys have looked and what it's going to look like once we can get fully healthy and get these guys some more time and everything like that. So, like I said at the top here, I'm expecting a desperate Charlotte side, which kind of makes me want to be a little compact to start this game, have them overextend, and then try to catch them on the counter, and then you can really kind of muck this game up a little bit. But I could also see Austin coming out and being like, hey, we think we're the better team here. We're here to play. We're here to get 3 points. Let's play a free and kind of open game and see what it looks like. So big eyes on that for me and what Nico's got up his sleeve with his staff.
Well, I think, right, you bring up the offense being one of the, really the side of the ball that everybody has under the microscope to start the season. And again, like not flying out of the gates here, but 3 goals through 2 games, like better than last year, right? Yeah. So far.
Yeah.
But I also think maybe the defense has been a little bit overshadowed because, right, you have the one breakdown at the very end where Robert Taylor is hobbling, everybody's on one side of the field, and things go to shit at the very end. But I think during
backups.
Go ahead.
Also 2 backups in your starting lineup for that matchup as well.
Yeah.
You should have had Dessler and Guilherme.
Yeah, and we did not have Savovich to bring off the bench and fire somebody into the second row, slow that breakdown. But I think during live play, man, outside of that one moment against Minnesota, through the first 180 minutes, the live play defense has been awesome so far. And again, 90 minutes of that against DC, but it's not like DC wasn't trying, right? So I think the defense has been very, very solid. And Coach kind of spoke about the defense. He said that like their internal metrics, which they get from like the MLS, and I forget the company that they have a contract to produce the tracking data with, but said their internal metrics had them as one of the best defensive teams in the league last week, which not surprising given the stats you saw DC put up. But he also spoke about last year being successful on set pieces on offense, and he thinks that being into the second year here in Austin with the coaching staff and with a lot of the players who are returning for this team, right? That they've been able to improve on things, not just with the set pieces, but he also mentioned the counter press and their rest defense. And I would agree with that. And he also praised the qualities of some of the new players like Joseph Rosales and Facu Torres, who have been able to help with those things immediately right out of the gate here. But I think my concern defensively so far is one that we saw, especially in that Chicago preseason match, is our set piece defense has not been great. Giving up the 2 headers off the corners against Chicago in the preseason. And then the first goal of the season we give up against Minnesota is Mo Duggan getting in between 2 smaller defenders off a corner and putting it down into the ground and into the net. So that's one thing I'm watching for here. And I think the last piece that I wanted to ask you about is one discussion I've seen in multiple places last week, and I think it's well-founded. Whether I agree with kind of the consensus that I've seen or not remains to be seen, but should Nico swap sides for Joseph Rosales and Jaden Nelson in your mind? Because Nelson more of a left-sided winger, but he can play both and has played both. Rosales on the right is the more out of place position here, so to speak. And so I know I've seen a lot of people wanting those 2 guys to switch sides. Do you have any kind of thoughts there? Or are you just like my take on it is, man, like I do know that there have been 2, maybe 3 plays where Rosales and he's not one-footed, but he is very left-footed, right? Yeah. And so I know there are 2 or 3 plays on the counterattack. There was the play, right, with the individual brilliance that he showed in that play, trying to chip it over the top at the end to Facu last week. I thought it was a very astute point by Landon watching that back. He said it on Moon Tower this week that if Rosales trusted his right foot in that moment, he's probably able to chip that over to Facu, and Facu doesn't have to check his run, and maybe we get more out of that. But I also don't think it's looked bad to the point. Like, it is, to me, nowhere near the level of obvious that the Buka on the left was last year in terms of holding back our offense. Is it ideal? No. But in my eyes, I'm still trusting the coaching staff that they see enough on film and in training that this is the best way to align and get our best 11 players on the field at once.
I'm fine with Rosales and Nelson with where they are at right now. I really am. You know what I mean? I get Rosales is very left-footed, but like he's looked totally fine. He's looked kind of free. I think he's opened up Johnny a little bit. That's at least my theory right now, that he's opened Johnny up a little bit from what we saw last year from when Johnny was tucked behind Buka, and Buka's just, constant in the same lane. So like that's part of my theory on why Johnny's looked better this year. I'm fine with it right now. I really am. I think Rosales is good enough and versatile to handle this. And like you're looking at this team right now, right? I might feel a little differently once BV's back into the action here. When you have a target 9 big guy in the middle here, as opposed to a Zuni who's on the smaller side of that scale there. So I'm totally fine with this right now. It's working, and I don't think that we should tweak anything.
Yeah, I mean, I just maybe I'm going to feel differently if it comes out this weekend. We come out and Charlotte's able to take advantage of Rosales and maybe being too one-footed to be up there. But I just haven't seen it yet. It hasn't, and maybe I'm just being too results-oriented with that and not, thinking play-by-play where, like, things could have gone better. But I'm not up in arms about it at the moment.
Let me ask you this. Who do you feel better about on the ball, kind of working some short, intermediate kind of passing with Facu? Nelson or Rosales?
I don't think I have a significant difference between the two.
Okay.
I mean, I think you're leading me to your answer being Rosales.
I say Rosales. I don't, and this is not a slight at Jaden or to say that Jaden's not capable of that stuff. But from what we've seen, that kind of work that Rosales has had, I think he's able to make shit work on either side, man. So we'll see. But of course, if he gets exposed this week, right. The narrative,
that's further context provided.
Yeah. And maybe, right, like maybe part of why we saw Buka on that left side last year, right, was the fact that Coach Nico wanted a much faster player on that side of the field, which Nelson is for defensive purposes. And we've seen Jaden Nelson do some defensive work from the start of the preseason into this regular season as well. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm fine with Rosales where it is. I've talked too much about that.
And well, unless you have anything else to add, E, how much is Austin FC winning by on Saturday night against Charlotte?
Yeah. Again, this is a winnable game. Initially, I wanted to say like a 1-1 or a 2-1 draw, but I think you can beat this team.
2-1 draw?
2-2 draw. I think that was my answer, is a 2-1. I think you can beat this team. I think this is an available 3 points. You're just going to have to put some quality shots up against Kalina, and you should have the opportunity to do that given what we've seen from the Charlotte team the first 2 weeks.
Yeah. I have a 1-1 draw. I'm right there with you. Where like I think it would be a significant step back, again, depending on how the goals may be let in. But giving up multiple goals to this Charlotte team with what they've put on film so far, I think that would be a negative performance. But again, we'll have to see the game. But I've got a 1-1 draw. I like your prediction better. So 2-1 win for E and a 1-1 draw for me. Don't care how you get it done, boys. Just bring us back to 3 points.
Come on down to Farmer Field where the champions play. Get ready for the game. It's last business day.
Last business day here on episode 288 of the North End Podcast, and Ventura County coming to town. Of course, that is the LA Galaxy Next Pro affiliate. Last season, Ventura County finished on the identical 41 points. This was the team that knocked us out of the playoffs on the wins tiebreaker, qualifying for that 8th and final playoff spot. So we absolutely have a little bit of get back on our minds here, or at least I would think these guys would. Last week in the opener, Ventura County beat Vancouver Whitecaps 4-2 in their opener. You had a brace by 19-year-old Julian Placias, goal by 19-year-old Ruben Ramos Jr. That's number 24. He's one of the homegrown first team members that you should see out at the pitch on Sunday night. Goal by 18-year-old Dylan Vanny, who has the most 2025 goal contributions for any returning player with 8, and an assist by number 18, Harbor Miller, homegrown first team defender there. And I think Harbor Miller, one of the guys, like we pulled a Harbor Miller card, maybe even an autograph the other day. Harbor Miller, probably the best prospect on the Ventura County roster here, but their captain, and you notice the ages of those players that I read off. Their captain, number 47, are now Villa Mitjana, 24-year-old Spaniard. So you see a significant age difference with the armband there compared to those players that I read off. But where they are starting a 24-year-old next to number 47, they also started number 45, Vicente Garcia, who is 15.
Oh, wow.
So this is a very young squad, at least that Ventura rolled out in their opener against Whitecaps 2, and clearly found success. 4 goals scored and the 3 points. So this is a high-powered but youthful Ventura County team coming to the pitch on Sunday.
Yeah, that is impressive, man. To get that all working and looking good with that kind of age, that's impressive, man.
So for Austin FC 2 here, shout out to Hernan from We Are Austin TV, because H told me and then reported on the Top Flight podcast this week that Charlie Farah has a calf injury. So he has been very limited in training, apparently, leading up to the opener, and that is why, or you at least played a part in why Eric Lauta got the start there. So again, maybe he's been back in training this week. If he hasn't, you're going to get another Lauta start, you would think. But there are 5 goalkeepers technically available to the second team here. You would think Damien probably not, since the team is on the road, the first team rather, on the road this Saturday. But we've got those 2 academy keepers that are on amateur agreements as well. So I think it'll be Lauta again in net, but not guaranteed after the way that first match went. And
that wasn't all on him.
No, and that I was going to say is that, like, we could also see some other changes, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe Daniel Chesley gets in there at center back. We know there's going to be, Coach Shackle rather, forced to change at least one of these spots because Adrian Gonzalez, well, shit, man, I forgot the next pro rule. Adrian Gonzalez will miss the next match against Loons 2. I think he's available for this week if I'm remembering the rules correctly, which is silly, but I guess not forced to make a change here. So maybe Adrian Gonzalez active in this one.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, definitely wasn't all allowed to last week. You just had so many poor plays that just really led to the destruction of the team. But team's got to respond, man. That was not a good opening game for the next pro team here, man. You got to find a way to respond, and I think that we have the players to do that for sure.
Yeah, I just want to real quick shout out to Aries in the Patreon Discord for alerting us to this signing today. It's not a signing for the second team, rather a former first teamer who played all of his minutes with the second team. Jimmy Farcarlin has signed with El Paso Locomotive.
Oh,
so
nice.
Congrats to Jimmy, man. That's great. I love that he found a landing spot at the USL level. Best of luck to him unless we see El Paso in the Open Cup. And I know you weren't familiar with the actor Cristo Fernandez who plays Danny Rojas in Ted Lasso, but the Jimmy to Danny Rojas connection could be real. So I'm hoping we get some of those highlights coming out of El Paso this year.
Shout out to Jimmy, man. I'm happy to see that he landed with the club.
So after that short tangent, one thing left to do. How much is Austin FC 2 bouncing back and winning by at the pitch this Sunday?
I'm going 2-1 again here. Bounce back game. I want to see it from this team. Let's do it.
I'm going to go 3-1. I think we open it up here offensively. Some of those guys that were with the first team in the preseason really turn it up a level here, defend home field in an emphatic manner. So I've got the 3-1. E's got the 2-1. We don't care how you get it done, boys. Just bring us or keep the 3 points at home.
And if we could have essentially a boy factory.
The Boy Factory, hard work in the first team quality. Today's academy, can't you see? Tomorrow's Austin FC.
Nobody clip Boy Factory and use that.
2 graphics to share here from the Boy Factory this week. Recapping the matches that happened this past weekend. Had the young boys, U13s and U14s at home taking on in-city rivals, Capital City. You look at the U13s, dominant in their 4-0 win over Cap City. Goals coming from Gabriel Giacomazzi in the 12th. We got an own goal from Cap City in the 16th, so shout out. Jordan McClanahan in the 23rd, 3-0 in the first 23 minutes, and then Eli Daniel in the 73rd to put that cherry on top of the victory for the U13s. U14s going to share the points here, 1-1 draw against Cap City. It was Oliver Hamadi scoring in the 38th minute to secure that point. So you go up with the age groups here, It was a weekend at Real Salt Lake for the 15s, 16s, and 18s, and you can see the U15s. Narrow win on the road here, a 3-2 final against RSL. Goals by Moises Canales in the 30th, Abdiel Alvarez in the 77th, and Toby Trujillo in the 86th. Back and forth scoring affair there, bringing all 3 points back to Austin. And then the older guys, man, rough road trip here. You look at the U16s, 5-1 loss here. It was Eric Feliciano with the lone Austin FC goal scored in that 20th minute. And then the U18s, 4-1 to RSL, dropping that match. It was Aiden Hale netting the lone Austin FC goal. So again, when you travel like that, I actually saw a stream of the U16 game that RSL had up, man. They were playing in this like soccer specific, like warehouse looking thing. You're going up there to the elevation, long plane ride, all of that stuff. We've played in the elevation before playing basketball, not the easiest thing to do. So you bring back one win and some more experience for all of these guys coming back home. So congrats to the winners there, and best of luck to all of the teams, assuming they've got games on the schedule here this weekend.
Absolutely. Tough place to play, though. That's for sure.
Let's close it out here with the nonsense, E, and the picks. Like I mentioned, the picks went a little bit better, but let me start with the negatives.
Okay.
And the negatives, once again, begin and end with the goal scorers, dude. We are now 0 for 26 on goal scoring picks. Like, this was the bread and butter
Yeah.
of our success at the books last year, and this is just incredible. You get 3 goals out of the Galaxy. One of them comes off a Gabriel Peck shot that goes off the inside of the post and is tapped home. Like, that's just that play alone just kind of encapsulated our goal scoring picks so far this season. So look, we're not going away from those, but maybe need to recalibrate a little bit on our process, because, you know, you want to shout variance, but 0 for 26, man, it's fucking terrible.
That is rough. Those are good names too. That's crazy.
I know. But man, where we found the success was our 5 pick slate of money line options here. It was extremely frustrating to watch the Columbus Crew concede not 1 but 2 goals to lowly Sporting Kansas City, because in the span of like 10 minutes, E, we lost our best ball stack with the clean sheet,
right.
And then we lost the money line here because the other 4, LAFC, Austin FC, NYCFC on the road, nearly 3-1, and Inter Miami at plus money. All 4 of those come through for us. So at the books, E, we were minus 5.8 units. So on the season, again, this is ugly as it gets right now. I think it was minus 22 and some change right now. But we also had success at the pick'ems last year, E, and we get on the horse here in week 2. Jonathan Bond allows 2 goals. Christian Kalina allows 3 goals, and Maxime Crépeau ended up allowing, I think, 4 goals, all in the second half. So we were celebrating that coming home from the Austin win, that you add, I think, 6.32 units on underdog. So the pick'em's now plus 5.32 units on the season. And you add that into the disaster at the books so far, and it doesn't look as bad. But the climb back towards even continues, man. It's the goal score. I mean, it's just dagger after dagger.
It's gonna be a long road back, but
yeah,
we ride.
Correct. All righty. Let's talk best ball, of course. We begin with the Verde Best Ball League, and it is We Are Austin TV. Beginning the season, back-to-back victories here to hold on to that top spot. 61 points for H and the boys, 134 total through these 2 weeks. Another second-place finish for the Verde Pendant. Just 1 point off the pace, so now just 9 points back of We Are Austin at the top. 52 for the good guys here in the north end, 54 apiece for Verde All Day and Soccer Wise. So third for us, Phil 7 points back. Soccer Wise makes a jump up over Moon Tower with a 35. So Moon Tower currently sitting with the spoon, but just a 2-week sample size. This thing is going to fluctuate wildly as we kind of work out the hierarchy over the first month or 2 of the season.
It's a wild ride. Not even looking at it right now.
All right.
Long way to go.
Well, I know you're looking at the Patreon League, E, because we go through our 3 leagues of 8 in the Sentimiento League. So our buddy Mace winning week 2, 70 points, I believe, on the back of a Thomas Muller brace there. But it was TJ, Birdman Verde, 54, keeps him in the overall league in the Sentimiento standings. Of course, Cesar in second there, followed by Mace, Kevin Morris, Ari Silva, Tex Rex, Brian Hensley getting out of the basement in the Sentimiento with 42 points, a 35 from Dave Smith, looking for brighter days ahead. E, we go to the most important league of the 3, the Heartbeat League, because your boy is in there. But it's our buddy Peach, the shadow deputy commissioner of the Best Ball Leagues. Peach, 68, jumps up into the top spot in the Heartbeat League, 116 points. Josh Dwyer right on his heels with a 60, 113. Statman Tim Thompson, 103. I'm a point off that pace at 102, followed by a tie between Dave Ruth and Mike Crignola at 98, Aaron Bertolini, 89, and AC bringing up the rear right now in the Heartbeat League with 81. And then E, obviously the least important, least competitive league of the 3. It's the Rooted League, sees your boy E at the top, 68 points in his week 2 victory in the Rooted League. Now 115, 3 points above our buddy Logan Oqua, who had a 48. And your roommate, Schnorb Jones, 54. Hey. He's up into third in the Rooted League, followed by Aggie, TJ Jonesy, Derek Hurd, Turbo Trevor, and Johnny Ruffier. So, E, you sit here looking at the race for the 2027 Premier League. Tej up top 118, Peach 116, and then E 115. So we've got the all nickname top 3 right now. The top 8 rounded out with Josh Dwyer, Cesar, Logan, Mace, and Kevmo. Then 2 points back of the line is Ari's. We've got 3 guys tied, 3 points back of the line, tied for 10th, Schnorb Jones, Tim Thompson, Tex Rex. Yours truly 1 point behind them. So I fall off of the top 12 graphic here, E, but we got plans to be back in week 3.
Very, very good. It's prestigious honor here.
Yeah. Okay. So how long are you going to be at the top of that Rooted League, man?
Look, man. As long as Messi's playing, I feel pretty good about it.
Okay. Anything else for you here before we shut it down?
Nah. Enjoy the rest of the week, y'all. Let's get 3 points this weekend.
I second that. Appreciate you tuning in, sticking with us here in episode 288 of the North End Podcast. We will be back to our regular schedule next week, back here on Sunday, recapping Austin FC's matchup against Charlotte FC, and of course talking about everything else that happens in the Austin FC universe between now and then. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. We'll do the same. We'll see you back here on Sunday for another episode. Until then, he's E, and I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.